Hello guys, welcome to yet another video. So in this series we will be coding a proxy caching server. Uh, I'm thinking of it to be in a series. There will be list of videos which you can take lessons to. And if you want to build your own proxy server, I think this will be a great video or a great introductory video for you to look up to. So, as this is the first video, let's start by understanding what a proxy caching is. Okay, so this proxy basically means, in simple words, it means you are pretending to be something. Yeah, that is it. That's most of it. So, let me tell you this thing. These two things you are already familiar with. One is your front end, and another is your back end. That's it. This video can be long, and most of the videos in this series can be long. So if you really want to, you can, yeah, this is your backend. uh, all right, so these two technologies you are already familiar with, and if you are you already know about proxying, that's good. And if you are looking to know about proxy, this already means that you know about front end and back end. So generally how front end and back end works is, front end asks for something and back end gives it something. That's most of the things. But there is one case in which you do not need backend to be called. You do not need to fetch anything from the backend. And let me tell you that case first. There can be another cases also, but when I started building proxy caching server, this was the only thing that came into my mind. So I'm telling you this. Or either you can chat GPT or anything else. Okay. So let's suppose a front end make a get request of a particular user with an ID 1, right? After a few seconds, front end makes another call with the same user ID and asks for same data from the backend. Now the question arises, do we actually need backend to be called again and again? If we already know, if we already know the user wants a data which we already have given to it all previously. So here we can create something which called as a proxy server. We can create something called as a proxy server. And if this proxy server, this front end will call to this proxy server. And if the proxy server thinks that this is the request which is coming for the first time, then it calls the backend for the first time. And whatever backend gives in response, it will store it somewhere in the local memory or maybe somewhere else, we will decide, and then it will gives it back to the front end. So we do not need to call the front backend again and again, and this greatly reduces the load on the backend. It really helps when our application becomes larger and we really need to scale it up. Proxy is one of the methods that are being used. Also, we are not going to create a production level proxy. It takes a lot of efforts. But anyway, we will try to make as much as optimized server as we can. Okay, so let's make it very common that we need to work only on this proxy server. We will forget what is front end. We will forget what is back end. Okay, so let's deep dive into this proxy server. So we will be building this proxy server. So first we need to know what all sort of things we need to build this particular whatever it is. Okay, so use common sense. This proxy server, what should this proxy server know about, or what you want this proxy server to know. Since, see, this word is proxy server, so since it is a server, this means it should be running on some port, right? Some port. We will define it manually, right? Another thing is, this proxy server is being called by a front end, right? Is being called by a front end, and there can be so many front ends, which by front end I mean clients, right? Or simply put as users. Simply put it as users. They can be bunch of users, but they all should know about this proxy server. It is not necessary for this proxy server to know about all these uh, client or users. So we do not need to give them any information about the client. We only want to take the request from them. That's the most of it. All right, and the request will be given from the front end to the proxy server, and it will pass on to the backend, or it will not be passed on to the backend. That will be decided by the proxy server. Okay, so this particular logic is completely annihilated. We don't need this. One thing that we do need is the backend URL. Is the backend URL, or simply we should make this proxy server in such a way that it should know about that what is your backend and where it is on the internet or in your local machine, depending on what you are building right now. Okay, this backend URL. Another thing that we'll be using is TTL. Let me explain you first if you do not know about this. Simply talking about this TTL is the time. It is a time. It is a time. It is a time duration actually, in which we will be storing this cache data for this particular time, and this will be given as a as a we can give it as an argument. Let's see what we'll build. Okay, so these things are we are sure of. It will be given to the proxy server. Next thing that we want to build is a caching. How we will perform caching, right? There are many ways to perform caching. In your backend actually there is a way to perform caching. I have read some article about it, but one of the convenient method is by using map, right? By using a map function, or by using a map structure in JavaScript. If you know about DSA, if you do some DSA shit in your life, so you should be knowing about what is a map. And if not, then no need to worry. It's actually really simple. So let's put it in here. So we need a map, or let's write this, a cache map. We need a cache map to locate and store the particular data. Okay, so how a mapping work is, it works like a key value pair. So we need a key and a value to locate and to store data, right? So we need a key and a value right here. Let me just make it some decorations and all stuff. Some key and some key and some data. Let's see, I'm not saying value but some data that we will make it store. Some data and some key, right? So you know about databases, right? So in databases there is called primary key or this type of things, in which this is unique, right? This is unique. So we want to create this key in such a way that it will always be unique. One way to do is, when you get a request from a client or from some user, you use that information to create a unique key. We will see that in later. And when you make calls, from proxy to backend, and then backend give you some response, then you will store that particular response as a data. And this data can be anything. It can be a number, it can be an object, it can be of any type. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's just a structure to store a data. It doesn't matter what type of data you are storing. It's like you're making a linked list, right? It doesn't matter whether you are storing an integer in the particular node or a character in a particular node. It doesn't matter, right? Okay, and then this data will be given back to the user. This is the main thing. These two things we are building right now. These two things are the main thing that we are going to build. So I think that is enough, right? This much explanation is enough. And if anything else that I will be explaining, we'll come to this particular dashboard. And now let's move to the VS Code, and we will initiate the process by making a folder first, right?